that up with a motion to approve the December 16th budget meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And I'll abstain on that one. Okay. Some quick announcements before we get into the main event. The Select Board will meet on the following dates: Monday, January 13th for a regular meeting at 5 p.m. Monday, January 27th for a regular meeting at 5 p.m. Monday, January 27th, we'll have the first public budget hearing at 5:15. And Thursday, February 6th, the second public budget hearing at 5:15 as well. Any citizens wishing to be listed on the Select Board's agenda should notify Town Hall before noon the Thursday before the scheduled meeting. And all meetings are held upstairs here in Town Hall, as well as Zoom. And Zoom information can be found on the town's website at plymouthnh.gov. Okay, those are my announcements. With that, I'm going to skip and come back to you, Scott, so that we can do some employee recognition. Did you want to say some words?
Sure, I'd like to. Well, welcome everyone. I'm glad to see everybody in attendance tonight. I will say this has a lot of true meaning to me in Kevin's promotion to fire chief. When I was fire chief in Ashland, Kevin came on as an explorer. Spent a lot of time with Kevin, and then when we hired Kevin as our deputy chief, our sole purpose was to bring on board our next chief. And we successfully have done that with Kevin's knowledge, ability, skill, and what he's brought to Plymouth over the last 2 years with his commitment and dedication to the town. We are very happy to promote Kevin to fire chief for the town of Plymouth, effective January 1st, 2025. So without further ado, Whitney, if you would like to pin our new fire chief,
You're gonna go?
we would love to have you do it.
You're officially ready, sir.
Would anybody like to say anything? Anybody? Mark, you're never silent.
For you, I can't talk to you, I'm sorry.
All of us? Yeah. Yeah. Dre and the boys, Brogan, put up your jacket, please. Can you do me a favor and hold on?
What about his oldest son? Shouldn't you win there too?
Paparazzi tonight.
That was one.
He's like, yeah, you got your time. I love it.
The only other thing I'd like to say is so many of you here tonight have watched Kevin come up through the fire service and have truly supported him in that endeavor. And again, I appreciate you all showing up tonight and showing your support. And I know each and every one of you will coach him, mentor him, talk to him, because I'm sure he's going to have many frustrations, as we all do when we enter that highest level in the fire service. But I appreciate you all being here, your support that you show him, and the continued support you'll provide to him throughout many, many years to come, because he's not going anywhere. So don't try. It's not going to happen.
You want to make me say something? On behalf of the Plymouth Fire Department, I'd like to thank everybody that traveled up here to support Kevin in his new endeavor. We appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Anything, Kevin?
I appreciate the support, and I'll try not to let you down. No, it's an honor to represent Plymouth Fire and the town of Plymouth, and I appreciate you guys having some faith in me, and it'll be a journey for sure. It'll be a lot of learning together. So, future looks fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a little room.
Yeah, exactly. It's fine. Happy.
Nice.
Let's bring my kid down from Montreal. We got stuck at the border.
Oh,
Say
yeah?
it again?
I was bringing my kid from Montreal. Started out this morning and just made it here. So.
What, just traffic or a,
We only had like one bay open. The lights indicated there was like two, but everyone was in one line. So there was like a Canadian cop there. I said, "Hey, is this open?" He said, "Yeah."
That empties out a room.
Well, you know how to empty the room, don't you?
no.
So then it became like a push and pull from like people that like all in one line, not letting us in. So they finally opened up another line. We just like raced right ahead. It's a mess. Wow.
Border crossings can be fun.
All right, you guys in agreement with it? I'm out of here. Okay, shut the doors.
All right. Well, let's pick our agenda back up at the town manager's report.
Sure. So we've gotten some good news this week. Grafton County Pandemic Emergency Fund application. The town of Plymouth submitted a grant application to Grafton County for funding of a street lighting project. We were notified on Thursday, December 19th, that we have been awarded $19,046 for the funding of this project. The project will address 3 light poles and 4 light head fixtures that need replacing in the area of crosswalks at the Enterprise Center, Court Street, and at Highland Street and Main Street. The 25-26 budget, the Select Board finalized their budget and capital improvement plan on December 16th at their scheduled budget meeting at 1 p.m. at the Town Hall. The first public budget hearing will occur on January 27th at 5:15 at Town Hall, and the second public hearing will occur on February 6th at 5:15 at Town Hall. Our goal is to continue budgeting conservatively for 25-26. Downtown drainage project closeout. And June and I met on Thursday, December 12th, to finalize the paperwork for the closeout of the downtown drainage project. Once the closeout paperwork is approved by the U.S. Economic Development Administration, the town of Plymouth will receive the final payment from EDA.
Is it just paperwork or any?
It's paperwork.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a matter of, it has to go through the regional, and then it has to go through an upper level of approval process.
No inspection or?
Town of Plymouth welcome letter. I would like to get the thoughts of the board on a Town of Plymouth welcome letter for those individuals new to Plymouth. I believe that we could increase resident engagement by sending a welcome letter to those that buy property or move into town as renters. As an example, the letter could include the latest town report link, newsletter, registration link, recreational opportunities, recycling efforts, and much more information. So just to kind of put that in your mind for now, and then come back to that if you think it's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea. I would love to see a
Okay.
draft of that, and
I will bring a draft to the next meeting.
fantastic.
Let's not mention tax rates. Okay. I guess they probably already know it. They bought a house.
Solar array project, the ribbon cutting ceremony for the solar array took place on Monday, December 16th at the solar array site on Quincy Road. We are working with the Energy Commission and Barrington Power to train Jesse Jennings, facility manager, to monitor the solar array. This will include regular monitoring to occur daily or weekly, reviewing the daily yield report to be sure the system is producing as one would expect based on the weather, and ensure that the area is mowed and no trees have fallen on the fence or array. Barrington Power will be responsible for the annual maintenance. For those that are interested on the website, if you go to the Town of Plymouth website and you go under projects and you click on solar array, there's a dashboard that you can actually see the daily production as well as the weekly, the monthly, and the yearly production of what the solar array is currently doing. Information Technology RFP, we received 4 proposals from the RFP that was issued in October. The closing date was Tuesday, November 26. We have started to interview our top proposals. Our current contract expires January 31st, 2025. Recycling Center, we are currently back to full staff and are back to full service. I want to thank Jim and Shane for their hard work and diligence during this time. We do appreciate the patience through our staff shortage. In the event that residents need sand for driveways and walkways, please pick up your sand at the recycling center in the sand bin that's near the brush pile. Plymouth State University updates. Just as in the previous weeks, we have the downtown free holiday parking in Silver Hall lots, right off of Court Street, lots 210 to 211, that runs through December 31st. Zach talked about the important dates to remember in our town office holiday schedule. Tuesday, December 24th, the office closes at noontime. Wednesday, the 25th, will be closed. The office will reopen at 8 a.m. on Thursday, December 26th. Wednesday, January 1st, we're closed, and Thursday, January 2nd, the office will reopen at 8 a.m. And a bit of information from the tax collector. As of last Thursday, 37% of the taxes have been received on the December bill that went out for January. And that concludes my report.
Any questions for Scott? Nope. Thank you. Our public hearing starting in 2 minutes. I don't think there's anything else there that's going to be fast. I say we started a minute early. What do you think?
I'm sorry about
Start a minute early?
Sure.
All right. So we're going to open a public hearing to discuss the proposed amendments to the fees for disposal of items at the Plymouth Recycling Center. Jim, do you want to give just a very brief description of what we're doing here?
Yeah, it's just for tire removal. Because our old tire prices, like a small passenger tire was $3. And the company that we use are going up to $4.50 for passenger tires, up to 19 inches. Truck tires over 19 to 24 will be $10.50. Oh no, skid steer tires will be $10.50. The truck tires, light commercial, $19.50. Estimated 35 pounds will be $8 that we'll have to pay to dispose of.
Yep.
So we're gonna have to raise the prices up to according to how we get rid of them.
Just a little bit more on that, Zach. This is driven by the vendor that takes our tires away with their price increase. And these prices will be guaranteed through 1/1/25 through 12/31/25. It's not something that the town wanted to increase, but based on what the vendor is providing us for pricing, that is the associated increases with the removal of tires.
So if I'm reading this right, the old rates were $3 for smaller tires and
For like dirt bike tires, motorcycle tires.
and then passenger tires were also $3,
Yep.
and then $13 for truck tires.
19 to 24, yeah.
19 inches to 24 inches, yep. And then if somebody had anything above 24 inches, they would come into the office to
They'd
get.
come in, and we had an old sheet, but it's not even close to what these prices are now.
And so the new prices will be
$4.50 for like your bicycle, motorcycle, and lawnmower tires, ATV.
Yep.
Your passenger tires, which would be up to 19-inch, would be $4.50. Skid steer tires, which we don't get many of those, except for us when we get rid of ours.
Yep.
But we can't pay ourselves to get rid of them. Would be $10.50. And light commercial truck, 19.5, estimated 35 pounds would be $8. Tractor trailer, heavy commercial tires would be 21, like your dump truck tires and stuff like that to get rid of, would be now 21. Snowmobile treads with no steel would be 21. And like race car type tires, we don't usually get, I haven't seen a race car tire come through there, would be 35. Small tractor front tires would be 35. Large rear tires would be 80. Backhoe tires would be 55. Excavator tracks would be 210. Loader tires would be 310. And skidder tires or any other tires not on the list, 210 to 310. And then we got tires with debris would be $8. $15.50 for your 19.5 estimated 35-pound tires. And truck tires, heavy commercial over 19, estimated 45 would be 31. With debris, if they come in with old leaves or dirt or ice in the wintertime, that's where those would be at.
All right. Thank you. With that, I will. Actually, any other questions from the board before I open the public hearing officially?
Do we have to clean tires with debris to get rid of them then, or?
No, they'll take them with the debris, and they'll have. That's why they add the extra fee to it, because they'll have to dispose of the.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Nothing else from.
Many skidder tires and loader tires.
No, but if we do, we're gonna have to make sure we have
by the pound.
charged by according.
They don't retread tires as much as they used to, so the volume must be going up.
Yeah,
You have a lot of commercial people coming in.
we have one commercial guy that comes in, and I'd like to get away from that because we're not set up to be commercial. We're set up for residential. That's how these facilities are run, on a residential type base, not a commercial.
All right. I'll officially open the public hearing for any public comment or questions. Anything online? Jonathan, do we have anybody other than yourself? I don't. Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, with that, I will close the public hearing with no comments from the public and bring it back to the board.
I think it's a good idea to up the prices.
Yeah. I mean, we don't want to lose money.
It's necessary. Unfortunately, some people are just gonna dump them on the side of the road.
They do that now anyway. I've picked a bunch up on Fairgrounds Road and that turnoff. Probably a couple a week. What's that?
Texas Hill and Ballard Road.
Yeah.
You telling us where all the hot spots are to throw our tires, or? I'm not kidding.
We come down river.
Yeah.
All right, so with that, I'll make a motion to approve the rate changes for the disposal of tires as outlined in the attached document that was provided.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. You guys
you,
have a
Kim.
good holiday.
Thank you.
You as well.
Thank you. I understand he's got his workforce up pretty close to full.
What's that?
His workforce is pretty
full.
low.
We are full.
Yep.
I can go through the signature folder unless you want.
Yeah, I'm just thinking 10-ish minutes, probably. Signature folder. Sounds good. Let's process that.
So, signatures for the board tonight, we have the 2024 Municipal Assessment Data Certification. This is just certification to DRA that we are not in a full reval, statistical, a partial, that we are going through a cyclical, work in progress, no revaluation. It's just something that we have to report to DRA. So that's signature for all the board members. Next item is a tax warrant for yield taxes. This was property, sorry. Looks like Garland. That's not right. 80 acres was cut, and the timber tax is for $3,937.48. The next item I have is a current use, land use change tax. These are for Wildflower Lane. Each of these are assessed a land use change tax of $2,050. There is 6 parcels. $2,050 each, and that's all I have.
Any questions from Fran on any of these? We can hit actually all the signature boxes this time.
Leave one blank for you to find.
Like a
There's a
Where's
lot-
Waldo
there's a lot of
the
different-
signature file?
Different pages to sign, so.
That's a long one.
Yeah.
It's okay, we have 6 minutes to kill.
We'll get there.
So do you just want to talk about the zoning amendment that came in? Just that the board needs to know that there is a petition that we received. You wanna
Yep,
go
so we
ahead?
did receive a
It's in your package.
petition warrant article that was signed by at least 25 registered voters. We did take it to the town clerk, Amy Lee, and she did verify that the 25 that verified 25 registered voters were verified by Amy Lee, the town clerk. The planning board did talk about this last Thursday night, and the responsibility of the select board is to send it back to the planning board to hold a public hearing. That public hearing has been scheduled and noticed for January 2nd, 2025, at the regularly scheduled planning board meeting.
No other action needed by the board for this, just to make you aware of it. And once the public hearing is held. then
Do we
open-
know why this set of changes was done through petition instead of through the planning board directly? I mean, I know it's citizens' rights to approach it that way, but I didn't know if if we knew why they decided to go that route.
I think the overview of what I have been told is that the petition and signed by the registered voters is that they feel this has been on hold for too long, that it's been discussed for at least 10 years, and most recently discussed back in 2021. It was discussed at a planning board meeting to move forward with a zoning amendment of this sort. And it was asked to be put on hold until COVID was over, and that people could come together and meet face-to-face versus meeting online. And I think they feel that that opportunity has occurred both in 2022 and 2023 at the planning board meetings, and they really wanted it to move forward through the democratic process of putting it to vote by the taxpayers in the town of Plymouth.
Okay.
Steve and Trish are here as well. I don't know. Camperino? They're in their-
Yes. I don't, is that do we think that one's quick or not quick?
It will be.
All right. Let's take that agenda item as well then.
So I did meet with Joseph today to try to get somewhat of an understanding on what Steve and Trish came here tonight for. And what Joseph has advised me, because Joseph has met with both Steve and Trish with regards to this issue, is they are looking for a waiver on the fee associated with boundary line adjustment. And the reason for the boundary line adjustment is that just recently identified is that the Temporino's well is located on their neighbor's property. And they've worked on an agreement with the neighbors to come to an agreement of a boundary line adjustment to put the well back on the Temporino's property. And what they're looking to waive is about a $600 to $700 fee, which would be associated with that boundary line adjustment between the newspaper notice, the abutter fees, and then the standard fee of $500 to move forward with the boundary line adjustment. So that's what I was advised by Joseph, our planner. And I guess, Steve, if you have any additional information that you want to provide to the board as well.
Thank you, Scott. I think Scott covered it in its entirety. We moved into our home in 1988, and it took us 35 years to realize that our well wasn't on our property. But this came about because we are in the process to put an addition on our home. And we had the home surveyed, and we learned that the well was not on our property, as Scott mentioned. And we had a conversation with our neighbor. We talked about an easement, but we also talked about the possibility of actually swapping some land, and that's where we came up with. We've agreed on where the new property boundary should be, and we've had it surveyed. But we did notice that the application fee was, $500, and that the application seems to be more of a generic application for large subdivisions and things like that. But this isn't really a subdivision. It's more something far more simpler, as Scott mentioned. So merely we're here just to request the waiver for that fee on this matter.
Either way, we have costs associated with even a lot line adjustment, right? There's the postage and the notification costs and Joseph's time to pull the records. Or I'm just thinking about what we typically are charging these fees with the intention of.
So the newspaper notice is typically $100, give or take. The abutter fees are $10 for each abutter. And then the standard fee is on top of that of the $500, which would incorporate Joseph's time putting towards it. Joseph did say this is a very simple boundary line adjustment that isn't going to take much work at all to get it in front of the planning board.
Then the planning board has to review it as well, right?
Correct.
So could we consider possibly just recouping what we have for fixed costs and waive the rest?
But how would that affect decisions going forward?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I know I haven't been attending the planning board recently, but in past years, lot line adjustments come up. It's not uncommon for us to deal with those. I would hate for every person with a lot line adjustment to come in and ask to have their fees adjusted. Other than giving you that information, did Joseph have any sort of feelings that he shared on this particular matter?
Those were the feelings that he shared with me, just what I stated. And like I said, he said it's a very simple process. There's nothing extensive about the little jet of land that we looked at the tax map today, so you can see where the Temporino's well is, just across the property line. And it's my understanding that you're just jetting out to cover the well.
The well, and there's some more too. It's not just the well. To be clear, it's a little more than just the well property, but it's property that my neighbor has no interest in. And it's all sloped down. So he said, why don't we just deal with this whole segment, which is kind of looks a little bit like a dog's leg, but it's a small parcel.
So what's the total area covered?
I don't know. Yeah.
It's fine. 0.2 acres. Yeah.
9,000.
Yeah, it's pretty sizable.
Yeah, I would be concerned. It's big, small, but I'm concerned about the precedent we're setting. Kind of already agreed to an amount. I think it warrants not so much theirs, but anybody else is coming forward. We'd have to review every coming forward on the same basis.
Yeah, I tend to lean in that direction as well.
I had a lot of adjustment done on my property. I don't know what I did to it. I think I ended up paying for it, but
You had to pay for them, Bill, is that what you said?
I think so, yeah. Also, we ended up having like 12 abutters.
Yeah,
It was just like between two properties, but
right, because it's everybody who abuts. When it's a lot line, it's both properties and everything that's around it, right?
yeah, it was more than just the two lots. It was all the property that I owned.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but I went with the flow.
Are we ready for a motion?
Or not.
Well,
Depends. Are you proposing a motion? It sounds like Mary Ann is explicitly not proposing an emotion.
okay. I have no particular motion to propose.
Neil, what's your take?
Well, I'd like to charge him for the actual cost. That's how I feel.
You could make a motion to that effect if you
Okay.
so desire.
I'll move that we charge him for our actual cost for the fee for lot line adjustment. And I consider that this is a special case, and apparently there was an oversight when he bought his property. He didn't get a proper easement for his well, or there was a misunderstanding on the boundary line.
So just to be clear on that, if I can, so it would be the newspaper posting of $100. It would be notices to the abutters at $10 each. And then we would have Joseph record his time that he takes on putting this together and taking it in front of the planning board for a decision.
It's a question to Neil, not to me. I didn't make the notion.
Okay.
Actual cost.
Okay.
Is there the possibility that the actual
We
cost
should
might
either
be-
second or
Yeah, you're right.
let it fail.
I don't have a second.
It appears you don't have a second. Any other suggested motions around this matter?
Can I ask a question? So you
Yeah.
you indicated it was like $500 or something like that? Or the total of all the fees of all the,
It'll probably be
No,
like $600
there's
to
a
$700.
$500 application fee.
yeah, okay, gotcha.
And then, as Scott mentioned, there are several other smaller fees for abutter notifications in newspapers. So the only thing that I was here to discuss tonight was the application fee. All those smaller fees, to me, seem quite reasonable. It's just that the $500 for such a minor process seemed to me a little less reasonable, because we're not subdividing a subdivision. This is just a private property line between two neighbors. That's all.
Any other questions from the board?
No.
It sounds like we're going to stick with the fee that we have in place so that we don't create some sort of precedence and create too much, unfairness. So I'm sorry for that, but
Sure,
it's
yeah, I
the
understand.
decision.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in.
It's nice to see you.
Good seeing you.
All right, let's take it back to our second hearing of the evening. Plymouth Selectboard's holding a public hearing in accordance with RSA 3195B for the acceptance of unanticipated funds from the New Hampshire Finance Authority in the amount of $25,000. The purpose of this grant is to assist those municipalities looking to increase housing opportunities through community engagement and regulatory change. This was applied for by
So,
Joseph.
it does include, what this $25,000 would be used for is a master plan housing chapter. This was approved by the planning board through the application process for the Housing Opportunity Program Level 2 project, and was approved by the planning board and authorized by the planning board to move forward. Subsequently, we did receive the $25,000, and it will be used towards the master plan housing chapter. So it's really to accept the $25,000 and apply it towards the purpose of the application of the grant.
So this is an extension of the housing opportunity planning project?
It is.
Like a
They'll
phase 2
use-
of that?
Correct. They'll use all the information that came from the Housing Opportunity Program, the first program that they had, and the information that came back from the consultant. Again, as that program went forward, there'll be many opportunities for public input and public hearings to seek information from the residents in the town of Plymouth with regards to this master plan housing chapter.
And the planning board's aware of and in support of us accepting these funds?
That is correct.
And will the 25,000 cover all those costs?
It will cover all the associated costs that are with developing the housing chapter.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Any questions or comments from the board?
I don't have any.
All right, I'll open it up to public comment. I have planning board members here and everything.
I'm sure I have a quorum.
That's fair. Ed, you missed twice.
I did? Oh, Zooks.
No comments from the audience, so I will close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to accept the the unanticipated funds from the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority in the amount of $25,000.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So that takes us to Dean Yetton and Mike Ahern here to discuss zoning amendments.
Well, as you know, we've been having a go around here right along for a couple of years and off and on, and certain people on the planning board want to get rid of the ag zone. I'm not saying they want to get rid of it, but they once they try to change the name of it. So, and this pushing this thing too fast. People don't know what they're voting on, and when they get to the ballot box, I mean the polls, you know, if it says the selectmen recommend this or the planning board recommends this, they just go like that. I mean, we needed more time, and I know that there's a petition out there that I guess it's all gone through, but we've tried to work with everybody, and it doesn't seem to be working. But the people are not informed. They need more input on the thing. But if it gets to the polls, I'm afraid that they won't know what they're voting on, and so we wanted to postpone it for about a year, and a couple of people on the planning board, more than two, they went ahead and got this petition out with the 25 names, so I guess they had better than 50 names probably, which doesn't surprise me. But anyway, it's being pushed through too fast, and we would like to I don't know where to go from there, to be honest with you. You, Mike?
So, happy birthday, Zach.
Thanks, Mike.
Happy birthday.
One other concern that's not related, but I've got you all here. Did South Main Street get more narrow since the...
Very much so.
So, to clarify something that Scott said, the proposed amendment from the townspeople, very different from what was proposed for an amendment 4 years ago, 2020-21. Back in 2020-21, the idea was to make the ag zone lots 3 acres rather than the 1 acre it is now. And so that's what the gist of what was proposed back then, and that was fought, and it was never put forward to the voters. And I give a lot of credit to the planning board and John Chris, the chair, for recognizing that there was not any interest on going forward with that. Since then, a few months ago, we had an application to put a hotel, a 98-unit hotel off of Smith Bridge Road. And there was an outpouring of people against putting that hotel there. There were a few that were concerned because it was a beautiful field, and there was much more concern because it was coming out onto a failed intersection. And the planning board, for that reason, well, I guess everybody had their own reasons, but it was defeated. And so that, I think, started the changes to the ag zone in recent months. I don't think there's been that talk about it widespread like it is now since before that. And then there's been a couple of issues with putting in storage units in the ag zone, which would probably be, some people feel, best used for housing, because in some areas they're proposing these storage units where there's water and sewer. there has been a lot of, and I just want to talk a little bit about what I see going on, because I've been on the planning board for a number of years, probably 15 at least, and I obviously sat on the table where you guys are now. But I've seen a lot of changes going, 3 acres per zoning, per acre, per lot in the ag zone, to then a couple years later reducing the size of a lot for the ag zone. So it's kind of going back and forth. And I don't want to say it's reactionary, but I've used that word before. And the planning board has done some positive changes, I feel. We've made some ADUs a little bit easier in the town, which I think is positive to get more units available. So there has been a lot of positive things. One thing that I've noticed is the town has been very consistent, the townspeople, with not wanting to see more than 6 units per building. And we did a survey with the help of Judy, who was our consultant with the Housing Committee. And overwhelmingly, the public was not in favor of more than 6 units. Yet the planning board seems to be more interested in working with developers that can make more money doing more than 6 units per building. And they seem to, a few people, not widespread, but a few people seem more interested in working with those developers. Part of the issue, I've been on the Housing Committee, and I've as well as served on the Planning Board, and some of the terms that are used are very much hard to understand. As an example, I served on the Housing Committee, and we used the word workforce housing. I thought I knew what workforce housing was. It took about 6-7 months of being on that committee, meeting weekly, before we finally got an explanation of what workforce housing is. I had no clue what it was, and it's pretty complicated. But when you think about it, it is easy. But it includes a huge range of housing for workforce housing. You've got people that are destitute, possibly, and living down by the river as a joke, and then the next step up is workforce housing all the way through most of our homes. And then you have another end that is probably multi-million-dollar homes, that type of thing. So, but there's the by far the biggest range is workforce housing. Even though you say you're going to put workforce housing in, it may include income-based. And it is a complete definition of income-based, which is a small slice of what workforce housing is. There's been a huge change. Okay, now the 2 proposed amendments that are looking to be voted on, one is for as we've discussed, changing some of the uses in the ag zone. And I'm a little concerned about it. I would love to see a moratorium on hotels in the ag zone while we discuss it, but that window, I believe, is closed. Instead, we're making it much more difficult for uses. And our ag zone is not just agricultural land and use of growing things. It's our rural district. Like most towns have a rural district. Ours is just a nod to our heritage as an agricultural community. We didn't have a huge amount of manufacturing in Plymouth. It was mostly ag. That's why I believe we have called that, and still to this day, a good part of our town ag zone. But a lot of the changes that are being proposed in that amendment would make it much more difficult for someone like Neil MacGyver to run his business. He's not growing anything, but he's...
Yes, I am.
Props?
I'm growing crops.
Oh, okay. I correct myself then. Neil is a very good example of uses on the rural agricultural zone that would make it much harder for someone to come in today if this passes. So I have a little bit of concern about that. If someone's got equipment, they're not going to site their business on Tenny Mountain Highway, where it may cost $1 million or more to buy the lot, and then much more on Tenny Mountain Highway for taxes per year. And they're not going to have the room to back up their equipment, bring in extra culverts. You're not going to see that type of business on Tenny Mountain Highway. You'll see a retail business like Three Lakes has their retail business, but their equipment, their landscaping is all in the ag zone, as an example. For those that are looking to get rid of the ruts in their driveways, they're not going to go to Tenny Mountain Highway and go hire someone with equipment. They're going to go to the rural part of a community. And so I get concerned when we offer these changes, which sound great, but it could have an adverse effect on the town with property taxes. It could have an adverse effect for those that are coming out of trade schools to run equipment. And when you think about it, with agriculture, it's hard to make a living in agriculture. There's other skilled trades that are similar, that our grandfather had those skills, or our great-grandfather, who was an agricultural grower, that their grandson or great-grandson still has those same tools, but he's using it as a machinist, or he's using it to repair tractors or to sell tractors. There's so many things that are going to be much harder in our community. For someone like Dean Yetton or myself, if we have ruts in our driveway or we need something done, I fire up the M108X, and Dean's got many other options. We're going to be okay, and we're not concerned about ourselves. We're concerned about the townspeople and what it might cost if they have to hire those services on Tenny Mountain Highway. I think there are better ways to handle that. And one thing that Frank Miller has brought up and others is the scale of a business. And it's really, that's what we all were coming to the conclusion of. It's not the size of the hotel or the size of the repair shop with many, many bays, or the size of the equipment where there might be 30 different excavators and 20 different dozers. We're talking about the scale. And I think that's where we need to really target, because let's face it, the residential folks that live in the town of Plymouth, they're not just in the residential zone in Plymouth, the single family zone. They're spreading out all over Plymouth, more and more every year. And it's making it harder for those rural workers, rural equipment operators, rural landscapers to site their business away from the population of homes. And so it's going to get harder for businesses, because anybody can step up to a meeting and can prevent a business, which then makes property taxes harder and harder, because those tractors aren't schooling any of their little tractors. So those are the concerns I have, and I wanted to bring it up to you. Not that you're still just one vote that will vote for the ballot, but just to make you aware. The other thing that there is a ballot proposed is for a Tenny Mountain overlay. And when you talk to people, and as Dean said, these things get really confusing, and it's hard to understand when you just read a paragraph and say whether you vote yes or no. There's a lot to it. And when I sit and explain it and sit down with people, they say, yeah, that doesn't make real sense for our community. But when you look at Tenny Mountain overlay, it almost sounds like it's for Tenny Mountain ski area. I'm sure most of you would say, yeah, we want to do everything we can for Tenny Mountain. And I certainly do. I don't think there's anybody in this community that wants to make things more difficult for our ski area. It is a huge resource for this community. And I've seen in my time being on the planning board at least 2 complete drawn-ups, and there was no one that said, yeah, that's not happening. Everybody's been extremely receptive to Tenny Mountain ski area. But the proposal is not just the ski area, like most residents would think. It includes about 2,500 acres and includes that whole area, both sides of 3A. And here we are back in 2020 and before and prior, all these changes. We've always tried to protect our most, I guess, endangered areas, our most, what's the word I'm thinking of, Steve? areas that are there we go. Thank you, Phil. We've always tried to protect our most sensitive acres and our most sensitive areas in the town of Plymouth. And yeah, we wanted to protect that field along the Baker River without putting a hotel for some. But when you think of how sensitive the wetlands are around Tenny Mountain, it's all going to be changed drastically. And so I think that if we're looking at helping Tenny Mountain, great, but seeing development, and they're talking about 30 units per building, Tenny Mountain, Steve Kelly, there could be some major changes out there. And Plymouth is, people came here for a certain reason, and everybody for different reasons, but the small town rural character of this community is amazing, and it's what keeps people here. But we could see some major changes, and I'm afraid that when people see this on the ballot, it's not exactly what they're going to be voting on. And so I just want you to be aware there are things happening, and I try and explain it as best as I can how I see it, because it just, that length of time on the planning board and in select board, it becomes a little bit easier for me to understand. And I hate for anybody to be shouted down because they give their point of view. And sometimes that can happen if you don't agree with everybody. So, and as a select board member and anybody on the planning board, you know, if you want to be on a board, there's a lot of different voices, and it's a lot, you have to have that respect. And I give a lot of credit to this select board for doing that. And I give a lot of credit for Neil. Neil has been a huge asset on that planning board. And he is a mentor to a lot of people on it. And the person that I always turn to that I say, what do you think? It's always going right to Neil, because Neil has a very good perspective on things. So if you have any questions, Dean or I would love to answer them for you.
Thanks, Mike. Any questions for Mike from the board on this?
I'd like to add just one thing. I don't know if Phil is still working for the state or not. I know that John is going to go work for the state. He's leaving the state college. Could it end up being on that planning board, could that be a conflict of interest? It's what we're trying to do here.
If I can, Zach?
Yeah, please.
I don't believe there's a conflict of interest, because I think it is a responsibility of a planning board member to speak up if they do have any conflict of interest. It's no different than any other planning board member that's going through a site plan review, or if they have a close neighbor that's going through a site plan review. And John, I did follow up with John on your question, Dean, and he's not leaving the university system. He's just moving to a different division of the university system, working with the cooperative extension.
Okay. All right. You know where we stand.
Yeah, since we're on this topic, Steve or Phil, do either of you want to comment on the, I guess we're really talking about the petitioned warrant article as well. I guess you also cited the Tenny Mountain overlay, so either of those seem like relevant.
Yeah, I'll just
topics.
speak to the Steve Whitman, 85 Summit Road. I'll just speak to the petition warrant article for the agricultural district, no name change. What I observed both in 2021, trying to work with these gentlemen on the other ag changes that Mike referred to, and then after we tabled everything and nobody wanted to work on it anymore, and eventually I got tired of being stonewalled and left the planning board. I also was not one of the better members as far as attendance. So luckily Matt Yetton stepped in, and other people showed interest after the 2020 and 2021 dialogue around the agricultural district and Tenny Mountain Highway. And I think it was actually a really good PR move for the planning board, because then people saw there were things in the works and they joined up. This go around, this has all been happening since the, whatever it is, 2018 master plan. Here we are about to do a new chapter for the master plan that shows how long it's been around. These changes are many of the commercial uses that people have long scratched their heads about, like why are these allowed without any question as permitted uses in the agricultural district of our town. And the planning board, I think, made a wise move. They decided to use special exception. We had talked about a conditional use permit before, which would have kept it at the planning board. In this case, it would go to the ZBA. It seemed like, once again, people were nervous about moving too fast and didn't want to bring it to the voters and let the voters decide. So after hearing from a number of voters who were discouraged that, once again, nothing was going to change, we did a petition. And ultimately, it will go to the voters in March. I will attend the hearing next week. I'm happy to speak to it. Hopefully other folks that signed will. And if the voters don't want any changes, it'll get voted down. But I think it's our due diligence to continue to bring this forward, have conversations, share different views, not shout people down, as Mike said, but really have dialogue. And so if we still are running into problems where we can't agree on what the vision is for that district, then something's still not right. I think for the most part, we probably all agree, have more in common on what we see as that district. It's the biggest part of our community. It's a lovely part of our community. Every area of it's different. And people are increasingly moving into it. And so what is going to happen there? So I just hope that folks will show up and vote. I hope they'll participate in the public hearings through the planning board. And we'll see what happens. The other petition that I know you didn't mention, Zach, but the election of planning board members was another topic that's been kicked around for a while. There are over 110 towns in New Hampshire, so not quite half that are elected for planning board. And here in Plymouth, we elect our cemetery trustees, our library trustees, and a lot of other things, but not planning board. So it seemed like that was something that should at least be brought to the voters and let the voters decide. Is this something that's important enough that we should elect people, that they can represent the voters, or not, and just continue to bring it to all of you and put you in a position where you have to decide.
I will point out that those other positions are almost always run unopposed.
Right.
So.
And this might be unopposed too, if we can't get enough people to.
The downside of moving and whatever, move to election, it's fine. But the downside of that is just the speed. You know, if somebody leaves, then you're appointing someone in temporarily. It's, I don't know.
Yeah. And the need for alternates.
Yeah, and the need for alternates. And then, so what do you elect alternates, or do you appoint alternates? I don't know.
Yeah, that would all have to be figured out. And I think there would be a lapse in time before it kicked in.
Yeah, my personal feeling feels like a can of worms, but also I get it.
Sure. Well, thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'm sure you'd all rather be home with your families, so thanks for being here.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it. Phil, did you have anything you wanted to say, or are you good?
Good, thanks. One more?
Yeah, please, Mike.
Oh, Dean.
Or Dean. Either, both. We'll take you both. I'll take comments from both of you. What?
No, I remember back 25 years ago, I guess, there was 5 articles that came up on the people voting on, at the polls. And we stood out there and handed out things, vote no on this or vote yes on this one like that. Is that still legal to do? Or?
Of course. Yeah. It's definitely legal to do. You have to be a certain distance away from the building, and so but yeah, absolutely, yes.
You've been handing out like that?
Yes.
Okay, then at that time there was 5 articles and we got all 5 articles voted down.
Yep.
This has been an ongoing thing. I mean, 3 years ago they wanted to change the name of the ag zone.
Gateway something.
I think the other thing that the planning board did last year, and I would certainly encourage the planning board to do again this year, is they provided a sheet that kind of gave some natural language explanation it wasn't biased, it was just an explanation of what each of those changes was. It didn't necessarily say we recommend or don't recommend, but kind of explained the intent. And I think that's really useful to the public, because sometimes reading something like this just becomes, they get lost in the terminology and they don't know what it means.
We had a map made up 3 years ago. Kevin French made the map up, and how many thousand acres in the ag zone?
It was most of the ag zone, 80%.
We had 80% of them on this map. People pledged their land just because they didn't want any changes. And they weren't all voters the residents of town of Plymouth. They didn't have to be to pledge their land because they pay taxes.
I was just going to say, there's a lot more agreement on the planning board than maybe what you hear, but, Phil and I, it's a great board, it really is. And I agree with Steve on a lot of things. One thing I didn't mention about the ag zone, industry is not allowed in the ag zone. So if something is that going to affect the land that much, it is not going to be showing up. So when you head scratch, that's the one thing that makes a lot of sense. And it all has to do with scale. And when I showed up on the planning board, I said, I want us to be there to help. And we have been. We've made changes to the ag zone with the ADUs. There's been changes. We did a lot of housing stuff that affected the ag zone. And we also looked at changing and making lots even smaller where there's water and sewer with an overlay, until we realized it just wasn't the infrastructure out on Fairgrounds Road. But we looked at that considerably on making some changes to the ag zone. So there are things that we're willing to look at, but it is scale that we are almost unanimous with the ag zone principal members that we're willing to look at for what uses you can do to the ag zone. I'm just worried that we get something voted in without really putting the time into discussing, and we lose that opportunity. And industry, obviously. And industry is defined in the planning board or zoning, and I think that needs more definition, so that someone who comes in with an application to go into the ag zones, that fits into industry, or that's too big of a scale. You've got to go into the commercial industrial on Tenny Mountain Highway. For a small business, should be permitted, that's not going to affect their neighbors that much, and it all has to do with scale. It all has to do with the definition of industry. Thank you very much for your time. I got a birthday party to get back to for my daughter, so.
Well, you should definitely go. A quick comment as you're walking out the door. One thing that I would be, if I was opposed to this, and I'm actually not sure where I land on it, but one thing that I would do is I would look at what are the businesses that currently exist in the ag zone that would, and obviously it doesn't retroactively affect them, but what are the businesses that, if they were to come in today with this change, wouldn't be allowed? And I think that would be very educational to folks to understand, okay, these are the sorts of things that are there now that wouldn't be allowed in the future.
Yeah.
And I think that's just my idea of like what would help people to understand whether, oh yeah, we agree those things shouldn't be in the ag zone, or yeah, those things feel like the kinds of expansions or the kinds of things we'd want to enable.
As an example, there was an applicant that wanted to put a repair facility out across from the town dump, and he had 70 acres, and there was concern that he might run an excavation business out of there. He wasn't, but that was a reason to call it industry, that they weren't going to give him permission to do that.
Yeah, no, I was thinking more along the lines of like, and I understand that this was written a lot in mind of trying to prevent things like that hotel that was recently shot down. But, I read that line and I see hotel, motel, indoor recreation, office, restaurant, retail sales, tourist home, all of those things as becoming special exceptions. And so I immediately think, well, Italian farmhouse, that couldn't exist under these new zoning regulations.
McLeod's chainsaw repair.
Small
Agricultural support business.
doesn't matter because this says retail. So I think that those sorts of things would
The
be.
saw business supports timber harvesting, which is agricultural.
I don't think that matters. It's a retail business. I think that this, as written, would. I mean, again, it's there. It's in place. It's it's not going to get blocked
If a
up. Those
business
places in the future.
supports agricultural activities, it should be allowed.
But I mean, a
you say
tractor
should.
repair.
I don't know. I don't think that's in the regulation, Neil.
Keep in mind, you would just go for a special exception. There may be conditions for it to be allowed, but it just wouldn't be allowed to do it as however it wants, and create problems with neighbors.
One thing
It would
that
be a process.
Yeah, and that process would include a whole bunch of neighbors coming to a hearing, just like the hotel, and potentially blocking that expansion.
they would have the mechanism with the special exception, and the 5 items for special exception is to change, if it would change the the character of the neighborhood, stuff like that. And obviously,
Character of the neighborhood's a pretty broad
yeah,
one that they
exactly.
can
And
interpret.
there's your check off right there. It stopped. I don't know them offhand.
They're in zoning. They're clearly defined in zoning.
But there's very easily, when people show up, it very easily can be stopped.
Anyway, you have a birthday to go
Yes.
to, and
Thank you
it's
for allowing us to speak.
different topic for a different area anyway. Thank you both. Thank you both as well, all of you.
One more
We
thing,
appreciate you.
Out on Yetton Road, ever since Barton Road was redone, which I wish I had tried to buy it. Wouldn't have been redone, but we're getting a humongous bunch of traffic. Tom Arnold is trying to get out there and do something different, but people go out there and walk and everything else, and then they don't want to do the lights in Tenny Mountain, so they run up just as fast as they can up Bartlett Road. And would it be ever be possible or anything to put speed bumps on Bartlett Road?
We've been opposed to speed bumps because they're kind of a pain for plowing and snow removal, but we have had great luck with the speed signs.
Oh shit, they don't pay no attention to the speed.
No, I'll tell you they do, because we've
Go faster.
watched the numbers, and in the past, when we've put those in a spot, we'll see initially the speed in that area kind of high, because they track, right? The police are able to track the numbers, and we see a reduction, in the speed. So those are effective.
When they redone Yetton Road, over there out there, they stuck up all these brand new signs and the whole works, and they changed from 35 to 25 to 20. And if you stood right in my driveway and watched these people go by,
And I'm not talking about regular speed signs. I'm talking about the
Electronic.
electronic ones that show your speed and they flash if you're going too fast. Those kind. Yeah, no, not just a regular speed limit sign.
Yetton Road, a state highway.
speed bumps.
Yetton Road's a state highway, but not Bartlett. I can talk to Alex and we'll get the sign out there,
Yeah. I mean, the other option would be we put a few more details out there. That sometimes
which
can
we
help
can do
too.
as well.
Well, Tom Arnold's he's been good about it, they don't have time to be everywhere. But
Yeah.
I was just thinking of a few speed bumps on Bartlett Road. State won't do it, Yetton Road is still a state road. And,
Yep.
And now they're talking about hot topping it next year, I don't know, it's not even safe to cross the road. I have to put cones out there to slow them up in the middle of the road. If I'm bringing hay across, we still do a cartload of hay. And I have to put cones out to slow them up. They will pay attention to some of the cones. Some people run over them on purpose, as you know. Okay, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for the heads up. It's an important thing for us to remember, especially when we have a road that's been kind of rough for a long time. We put new pavement or rebuild a road. That coming year to 18 months, it's going to get a little fast out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I talked to Mr. Faggot there about it there before, and he talked one winter about shutting Bartlett Road down because it was so hard on the plows and stuff. Okay, and then I talked to a surveyor. Well, I said to him, I'd like to buy the road and I'll shut it off. Because we own both sides of the line, from Yetton Road to Reservoir Road, we own both sides of, there's no houses, they own it, people that might have to get up here to be the co-op. And it didn't get any further, I don't think it ever got to you people, even though it never said anything.
I'll tell you, in 2020, I would have loved to have been on your side of that argument.
I know.
I tried to convince the board to turn that road back to dirt and stop using it altogether, but I was alone in that particular.
Well, I would have plowed up to probably go into the sawmill and then walked off the rest of it. And that would cure 50% of the traffic in front of my house. Well, on that road.
Yeah.
Not just mine, there's people with children living out there and they try to go out and walk and everything else, but these people are just, if they had wings, they'd be going. Anyway, thank you for your time. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, Dean.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, on to committee reports.
Need help?
Before we go too far into committee reports, Mary Ann and I had a conversation last week, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
She's got some personal life stuff going on and needs to reduce some of her committee commitments for the short term. I offered to take Chamber of Commerce going forward. As long as there's no objection to that, we will need somebody to step up and take Village Water and Sewer.
That's once a month.
Once a
I think
month.
it's second Tuesday or first Tuesday, I forget.
I think we've got a volunteer down at the other.
Sounds like maybe Scott's
I've done
volunteer.
water and sewer.
I'd be happy,
I'm-
or if Neil wants it, that's fine. I
I'm
know you
not
have a lot on your
volunteering,
plates,
but I'll do
but
it.
I don't mind doing that.
You want to do it?
I don't mind
You
doing
don't,
it.
yeah, I mean, if there's no,
I've done it too, but I'll start in March, okay?
Are you running for water and sewer?
Yeah, no,
I mean, you don't have 2 meetings to commit to if you took it right now.
no.
You're not in
If
the
you're,
district
if you're good
anyway.
with it, that
I don't
sounds-
mind.
That sounds great.
Okay.
You're not in the
Scott.
district.
And when we, when we redo committees in March with 2 new board members, 2 new board members?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still 2 new board members?
Huh? What?
Are you done in March?
Yeah. I
When we
wasn't
have
going
2
to
new
run
board
again.
members, we'll talk through.
Yeah, I wasn't going to run
committee-
again. I was
committee
hoping
reasons.
some of my friends on the planning board might be interested.
So Zach, you're gonna take over the Chamber of Commerce?
I'm going to take Chamber of Commerce, and
It's
it sounds like
necessary.
Scott's going to cover water and sewer for us.
Since we're on that, Zach, for the spring term, can you cover the high school
Yes.
for January, February,
Yes.
April?
Yep, January, February, March, and April. Yep. So replace Ted on high school, Mary Ann on village, water and sewer with Scott, and then Chamber with me.
Sounds like Zach can just do it all.
No, I'm not doing village, water and sewer.
So the building, Fire and Building Needs Assessment Committee?
Uh,
Yeah,
I was going to say, Bill has already started attending those too,
Yeah.
so probably put his name there pretty easily.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Bill, you good with that?
yes,
Yep, okay.
anything to help Mary Ann.
And we can probably drop off the union negotiations because it's not happening anymore.
Planning and Economic Development, we probably won't have anything between now and March?
No, we have both gentlemen coming in next month in January to talk to these.
Board, though?
Yep.
Okay, but no meetings,
There'll be no
probably?
meetings,
Okay.
probably.
No.
That'll carry us through. It's kind of Scott on that one too, then, I guess,
Yeah.
technically.
Scott,
Yeah, just
Already
put
on.
putting you right on the list.
Scott
That's
on
fine.
there because
You
he's
don't
already
have
doing
enough to
it.
do, Scott?
No,
Okay.
God, no. I got plenty of
Thank you
spare
all.
time.
That was a quick bit of reorganization. With that, I know you were not able to go to the most recent Village Water and Sewer, so we have no report on that. Planning Board, we've got a little bit of update on that this evening. What else you got, Neil?
On Thursday, December 19th, Planning Board had a meeting. Vice Chair Susan Woods was the acting chairman. We approved the minutes for the December 5th meeting. We had Kevin French represented a lady named Heidi F.H. Adams, who had an application for minor subdivision. It was taking one lot out of a larger lot. They wanted to subdivide 1.2 acre lot that had road frontage on Morse Road out of an 11.52 acre lot. And there was a motion to accept the plan. It was approved. And there was a motion to approve the subdivision, and that was approved. And our second hearing was regarding BICO. It was a pre-application review. We had formerly approved storage facilities off of Page Street, and they wanted to revoke that. And go back to a different plan. So they've given up on the idea of having a storage facility, and they want to put a road in from Crescent Street, their development on Crescent Street, which could serve 11 homes, and there would be 5 duplexes and 1 freestanding house with optional garages, and they're in the process of revoking their previously recorded approved plan. And so the planning board listened to their, was receptive of their proposal, and they'll be back in the future with an application. Then we had a discussion regarding an extension to January 2nd for the Mountain Village Charter School, and the motion to schedule it to January 2nd was approved. And that's going to be their last extension, if they don't have their ducks in a row.
Seems like that one's been
Start
extended a long time, right?
Yeah, this is absolutely the last time. And that was our meeting.
All right. Any questions for Neil?
How long was it? It was 3 hours.
It wasn't a bad meeting.
1 hour and 19 minutes.
Say, based on that, those
That was
notes.
4 hours.
Yeah, everybody was exhausted from the previous one.
Sue might get nominated to be chair next year.
That's all it takes.
She did a good job.
Campus Community Council?
Nothing at this point in time. We probably should send out an invite back to Jess Dutile and Co. for a spring visit.
March is when we're scheduled.
We have something already scheduled for March?
We have it for the first board meeting in March.
Awesome.
I don't remember what the date is. but
Perfect. All right, Plymouth School District.
Nothing until January. Just so you know, Zach, I can attend the first one in January.
I might be there anyway. I often get dragged. So nothing for either.
Nope.
Conservation Commission?
They were scheduled originally to have a meeting last week, but they had voted at the previous meeting to forego the December meeting, so nothing.
All right. Capital Improvement is now at kind of rest. LRPC?
The executive committee meeting was nixed for the holidays, and I missed the last commissioners meeting.
We didn't have a meeting this month, right?
No, we didn't have the last commissioners meeting, we all had to come in.
When's the next meeting?
For the executive committee?
No, for the regular.
I don't even know.
RPC.
It's posted, I haven't heard.
January, sometime
Probably January, yep.
next week.
Parks and Rec, Ted?
Nothing at this point in time.
Parking and Economic Development?
No, we have both Stuart and Neil coming in separate meetings in January to talk about economic development.
Okay. Energy Commission?
We nailed it.
Solar Arrays Live?
Yeah.
That's it.
How well attended was the kind of ribbon cutting ceremony?
It was quite amazing, actually.
There was probably 40 people.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's
The
really great.
airport building was full. And
I love that.
I'm guessing 40 people. The parking lot at the airport was full. We had highway go out and plow that and get it ready for that ribbon cutting ceremony. But I thought it was very well attended.
great.
And a lot of positive comments with regards to people who spoke at the ribbon cutting.
And of course, I invited a lot of political people, so they showed up.
And they showed up.
Something happened
good,
to
too.
my email at plymouth.edu. I need to talk with an expert in that area.
Know any?
You might be able to
Call
give
the
me a
help
tip
desk.
on how to get back on it.
You probably should call the help desk.
Yeah, I'm gonna call him.
I suspect I know what the reason is.
You do?
Yeah, they swapped over to a new
And I fell through
ERP
the
system,
crack, huh?
and I'm not sure how your account was granted, but depending on how it was
Yes.
granted, it may have
Disappeared.
disappeared.
Lost.
The good news is if you call tomorrow while they're still open,
Yeah.
before the holiday,
You'll get it going.
there's a good chance that it can be restored with minimal loss. If you wait,
Is that
no one's going to be
Is
around.
that Lamson Library, right?
Just call the 535-2929, I think,
Yeah.
or go on the website. I don't.
Yeah.
They changed the number recently, and obviously I never
You're
call
always
it.
gonna change everything.
Yeah.
And Neil, the next executive board meeting of LRPC is March 12th. And
Oh,
the
March?
The next commissioners meeting is March 24th.
Wow.
Wow, nothing till March.
I'll never remember that.
Well,
When,
I'll let you know.
when's,
March
I was gonna say, isn't town meeting on the 11th?
You on March 12th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be your last meeting.
Executive. And the 24th is the
24th
committee.
is commission. Yeah, commissioner.
Nothing for advisory budget committee, or budget meetings. We heard the dates. PSU negotiations.
Until spring.
Nothing till spring. Chamber of Commerce. My notes are, we met, I don't know, a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I don't know. Time is confusing right now. They've got a business after hours event coming up on January 15th. They're now at 173 members, which is good. Their goal was to get to 200 by June or something, so they're sort of on track to get there. The 2025 annual meeting and awards ceremony will be in June, and it's going to be hosted at Merrill Place at Plymouth State. After a lot of different considerations of other locations, that one came in the best. They are debating, well, they have decided actually that they're going to not re-enroll in membership with Granite Outdoor Alliance. So they're stepping away from that organization. They didn't feel like the board, the chamber was really getting value out of that, commensurate with the cost. They are going to have one last conversation with them to see if they'll do like a membership exchange, but short of a membership exchange, they're going to step away from Granite Outdoor Alliance. And they have a travel and tourism seminar on February 6th. And I'm going to meet with, one-on-one with Maddie, yes, the first week of January, just to sort of get up to date on everything.
Zach, what was the date of that meeting?
That's an
Thursdays
excellent question.
ago.
I'm sorry?
2 Thursdays ago.
Okay.
We'll find out. Don't need to do the math.
December,
Good. Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
I
okay,
don't
thank
know.
you.
Time has been very confusing for me this month. Any questions about chamber? Perlac?
The next meeting on the 31st. I doubt it, but it's scheduled for the 31st.
31st?
Yeah.
Of
Open bottle of
December?
champagne. Yeah.
They're scheduled?
About midnight.
It's, yeah, midnight. They start meeting 11. So yeah, it's scheduled, but I really doubt that. I haven't heard that it's going to be canceled, but very likely.
Stay till midnight, huh?
Police and fire building assessment?
Kevin will be scheduling a meeting after the holidays.
Sometime in January. And we're
Done with that.
done with union negotiations for a year.
Next,
Yes.
well,
Yeah,
next
the year.
September-ish.
9 months. Yeah, 9 months. All right. Public comments. Yes, sir.
The only thing I could suggest with regard to the fees for subdivision is that, it might make sense for so planning board never sees cost, and I was kind of surprised to hear that it was a $500 application fee for even for a boundary line adjustment. Boundary line adjustments are pretty simple. I would think that if Joseph looked at his time, he could probably come up with a lower fee for boundary line adjustments. And then I would suggest maybe looking at 3 tiers for application review for planning board. One for boundary line adjustments, one for subdivisions with no road, subdivisions on existing roads, and a higher one for subdivisions with internal roads. It might serve the public interest better than having a flat fee. But I mean, I would presume Joseph puts time into any of those, but I would presume that there would be a significant difference in how much time it takes.
The subdivision rules just updated?
What's that?
Subdivision was just updated, wasn't it?
But do we put the fees in the subdivision regs?
Right,
Do we?
yes.
Oh man, got me then.
So
I'll have
I
to look
think
at that
that
then.
goes back to the planning board to have that
Okay.
conversation.
I thought that was
Because I don't
administrative.
disagree with you, is that
Right.
there's different levels and complicated
Yeah.
pieces with regards to
I mean,
a complete subdivision versus.
A lot of his time is just administrative in shepherding the application through the process too, and I can see having some kind of a flat fee there, but yeah, okay, thank you. That's my only comment.
Thank you, Phil. Any other questions, comments, issues from the board?
Have a very Merry Christmas.
Yeah, happy holidays, Merry Christmas to everybody.
Adoring fans.
Yeah,
Jonathan.
all those folks out on YouTube.
Yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll
Second. Oh, crap.
You got it.
I don't know. Pick one. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Phil.